good. Everything's fine.
Some sad news to report now. Kelly Clarkson's ex-husband, Brandon Blackstock, has died.
This morning, fans are sending love and condolences to singer Kelly Clarkson after the death of her ex-husband and former manager, Brandon Blackstock.
A talent manager who was previously married to Kelly Clarkson and the father of her 2 kids has died. He was 48 years old. Kelly revealed on Wednesday the reason behind her break was because Brandon was sick. News of Brandon's death comes less than a day after Kelly announced she's rescheduling upcoming dates for her Vegas residency show.
Kelly Clarkson just paused her Las Vegas run for one reason: to be fully present for her kids. Hours later, the world learned why. Her ex-husband Brandon Blackstock had passed at 48 after a private illness. Today, she broke silence to reveal shocking details of Brandon Blackstock's final days and what he revealed to her before his passing. This is the unseen timeline of his final days, the quiet choices Kelly made, and how this loss could reshape everything she does next. The announcement landed with almost no flair, just a calm note that the remaining August dates in Las Vegas were on pause so she could be fully present for her kids. Fans were supportive, but they also felt the weight between the lines. This didn't read like a routine break for vocal rest or a scheduling hiccup. It felt like a boundary drawn in an emergency. People started replaying her summer timeline in their heads. Yes, she'd had to slow down before. Yes, Vegas can be punishing. But this post carried a different kind of gravity. No push to reschedule immediately. No tease about a bigger moment ahead. Just a mother stepping off stage, deliberate, protective, and very specific about why. The message traveled fast. Ticket holders refreshed feeds. Comment sections softened. Industry chatter went quiet for once, replaced by a sort of collective hush. Whatever this was, it mattered more than box office numbers or a packed residency calendar. And then came the uneasy stillness that always follows news without details. Support poured in. Speculation tried to surge but never really took. The tone of her words had already answered the only question that mattered: family first. What no one outside her circle knew yet was that within a day, the reason for that pause would stop being a mystery and become the headline no one wanted. The confirmation came the very next day. A quiet statement from Brandon's family said he'd been fighting cancer for more than 3 years, and that he passed peacefully at 48, surrounded by loved ones. In an instant, the conversation flipped, from residency chatter and schedules to shock, sympathy, and the kind of silence that follows news you can't process right away. Headlines multiplied, but the details stayed simple and dignified. No medical play-by-play, just a request for privacy and a reminder that this had been a private battle all along. And that's what made the timing feel so stark. Kelly's pause suddenly made sense, and the weight everyone sensed in her words finally had a name. But that was only the surface of a story that had been unfolding off-camera for years, and it explains why so little was said until now. For more than 3 years, his diagnosis lived inside a tiny circle. No press releases, no drip feed of updates, just a quiet fight, handled in private, while the rest of the world spun rumors about tours, ratings, and every headline that wasn't the real story. Privacy like that doesn't happen by accident. It's a choice, and it shaped everything that came next. Kelly's words reflected that choice. She didn't traffic in hints or sympathy bait. She kept the conversation narrow, centered on 2 children who suddenly needed their mom at full strength. When you're managing hospital schedules, hard conversations, and the kind of uncertainty that steals your sleep, there's no appetite for public play-by-play. Silence becomes a shield. Boundaries become survival. It also explains the tone shifts people noticed in recent months. Fewer casual reveals, more careful phrasing. Projects paced on her timeline, not the industry's. The goal wasn't secrecy for the sake of image, it was protection. Protect the kids from noise. Protect the family from speculation. Protect a complicated history from being reduced to clicks. And in that quiet, something rare happened. The story stayed human, not a spectacle. Not a feud with new chapters, just a private battle carried with dignity, even as the clock ran down. But a life is larger than an illness, and a relationship is larger than its ending. To understand how this loss hits, you have to see who Brandon was before the hospital rooms, and why their paths were so tightly intertwined in the first place. Before the headlines, Brandon lived in the engine room of the music business. He wasn't the face on the poster. He was the one on the phone, lining up opportunities, negotiating, keeping the trains on time. He grew up around stages and green rooms, learned the rhythms of touring life early, and built a reputation as a manager who kept his clients moving without making himself the story. That's how he and Kelly first worked in sync. She brought the voice. He handled the chessboard. For a while, it fit. A blended family took shape. 2 older kids from his previous relationship, and then River and Remington. Life looked less like a red carpet and more like school pickups, writing sessions, and travel calendars stitched together so everyone got where they needed to be. Then came the Montana chapter. A ranch, distance from the spotlight, space to breathe. For some, it looked like a retreat from industry noise. For others, a sign the couple wanted different versions of normal. Either way, it became part of their story, a place that would matter long after the marriage didn't. The ranch would later symbolize more than lifestyle. It would become one of the flashpoints when everything changed. Professionally, Brandon stayed the behind-the-scenes operator. He knew label cycles, TV tie-ins, tour timing. Personally, he was the constant presence in the kids' lives on and off the road. That dual identity, business fixer and full-time dad, made the eventual split feel even bigger. It wasn't just 2 public figures uncoupling. It was a team dissolving. And that's why the next part hit so hard. When the marriage ended, it didn't unravel quietly in a private room. It played out in paperwork, headlines, and arguments about homes, money, and who owed what to whom. The same skills that kept a career humming suddenly sat across from each other in negotiation rooms. The Montana address wasn't just scenery anymore, it was leverage. And that fight would write the next chapter. Money amplified everything. Who paid what? Who kept which place? Who was owed for work done years earlier? Even the Montana property became a symbol, carrying more weight than a patch of land should. Fans saw numbers. The family felt the toll. When a life is reduced to spreadsheets and signatures, trust doesn't just fray, it calcifies into caution. Then came the industry wrinkle. A state regulator weighed in on parts of the business history, deciding some tasks crossed lines that normally belong to agents, not managers. That ruling lit a separate fight over commissions, the kind of technical dispute that feels abstract to anyone outside the business, but very real to the people who lived it. Months later, the parties closed that chapter quietly. No victory laps, just an agreement and a door pulled shut. Those years trained Kelly to treat the narrative like a storm siren. She learned to speak narrowly, to protect the kids from commentary masquerading as curiosity, to let lawyers and calendars do the talking while she saved her energy for work and home. It wasn't cold, it was self-preservation. So when the final days arrived and the noise tried to rise again, she didn't take the bait. No long statements, no score settling, just a pause, a family, and a line that said everything without saying much at all. And that choice, mom first, public later, would shape what she did next. She didn't craft a statement or chase sympathy. She rerouted her schedule, closed the door, and made the house feel steady. Breakfast at the usual time, homework at the table, phones down when the news cycle got loud. If the kids had questions, she answered them. If the tears came, she let them come. The point wasn't to pretend everything was fine. It was to show that even when it isn't, you're still safe. Work moved to the back seat. Meetings were shifted. Travel paused. Any decision that didn't serve the 2 people in her living room could wait. She kept her words small and her circle smaller, choosing quiet over headlines and routine over performance. It wasn't a strategy, it was instinct. That restraint changed the temperature around her. Instead of feeding speculation, she starved it. There were no breadcrumb posts, no sources close to whispering for clicks, just a mother opting out of the noise and into the moment, trusting that the stage would still be there when she was ready, and that real life doesn't bend to a production calendar. And that's when something rare happened. The tone around her shifted. Curiosity gave way to respect. The story stopped being about a feud and started being about a family. But the response beyond her front door didn't just soften, it surged, and in a way few expected. The internet didn't rush to pick sides this time. It paused. Comment sections that usually spiral into noise turned into condolence books. Fans wrote to Kelly, but more often they wrote to River and Remington, sharing their own stories of losing a parent and promising that the ache reshapes, even if it never truly leaves. The tone was gentler than usual, almost protective, as if the audience collectively agreed to lower its voice. Inside the industry, the response arrived quietly. Artists sent messages without press releases. Former collaborators posted short notes and moved on, skipping the long tributes that can feel like performances. The absence of spectacle said enough. People who know the grind of public grief recognized what she was doing, choosing presence over press, and met her there. Coverage shifted with it. The familiar scripts about the divorce, the ranch, the rulings, suddenly felt dated, even hollow. Headlines that once mined every filing began highlighting something else, a parent drawing a hard line between career and family, and refusing to let the past rewrite how her kids remember their dad. The narrative didn't vanish, it matured. Of course, the rumor mill tried to rev its engine, it always does, but starved of fresh drama, it sputtered. Kelly didn't feed it with breadcrumb posts or emotional tell-alls. She kept the circle tight, the schedule simple, and the message steady. We're okay, and we're taking our time. That restraint didn't just calm the story, it reset expectations for what comes next. And that's the pivot point. When the noise fades, the work returns, changed by what happened, but not defined by it. The question isn't whether she'll speak about this chapter, it's how it will filter into the music, the show, and the choices she makes from here. Which is where the next part of this story begins. Grief doesn't erase a career, it rewires it. The stage will come back, but the pace will be hers. Expect fewer announcements and more intention. Fewer big reveals, more work that speaks for itself. When she returns, it won't be to prove she's okay. It'll be because the songs have something to say. That shift tends to change the art. Loss has a way of sanding down the unnecessary. Hooks get leaner, lyrics get cleaner. The bravado falls away, and what's left is voice. Unfiltered, present, a little raw around the edges. If she writes, it'll likely carry that weight, not as a confessional, but as clarity. She's never needed oversharing to connect. She won her audience with truth that fits in a single line. The show will move too, but on her calendar. A lighter taping schedule at first. More conversations that feel lived in rather than loud. Less segment churn, more moments that breathe. Viewers can sense when a host is operating from a real place, and that authenticity is its own engine. It pulls people closer without turning pain into content. Vegas and live dates will sit in the when we're ready column, not canceled dreams, rescheduled priorities. You won't hear a countdown clock or see a frenzy of teasers. You'll wake up one morning and notice the dates are back on the board. Simple as that. Presence now, performance later. Co-parenting doesn't end with a funeral, it changes shape. She'll carry both roles at home, not by pretending nothing happened, but by naming what did and building around it. The guardrails that kept the noise out will stay in place. The difference is purpose. Privacy isn't strategy anymore, it's structure. And the legacy piece matters. The divorce headlines will always exist, archived and searchable. But after this, they sit behind a bigger chapter. People will remember the restraint more than the rulings. The way she chose grace when it would have been easy to score points. That has a long half-life. It colors how the public reads the next song, the next interview, the next decision to step on or off a stage. So what changes? Not the core, the filter. What gets through to the world will be the work, the kids, the moments that matter. Everything else stays quiet by design. And that's the point. The story isn't over. It's tighter, truer, and moving at a human speed. But that wasn't the whole story, because after a pause like this, how she closes this chapter may be the most revealing choice of all. In the end, this wasn't a plot twist. It was a private goodbye the world happened to see from the sidewalk. A residency paused, a headline everyone wished wasn't true, and a mother who chose the quiet work of keeping 2 kids steady when everything else tilted. The paperwork years will still live online, but they don't get the final word. What lasts is smaller and stronger. Boundaries kept, memories protected, and a career that moves when she's ready, not when the calendar says so. If there's a lesson in these final days, it's simple. You don't have to explain yourself to be understood. Sometimes the clearest statement is the one line that stops the show, and the life you live after it. The lights will come back, the songs will return, but they'll carry a new weight and a new kind of truth. And maybe that's the real reveal here. Not what happened, but how she decided to move through it.